Get ready.
Hi, welcome back to Trancing in the Sheets. My name's Kaz Riley, and we're here on the 24/7 Live Hypnosis Network, or the Hypnosis 24/7 Live Network, whichever you want to call it. And I've got something really different for you today. I have the most amazing young woman. She's 23. Her name is Melissa Zak, and she is the owner of the art brand Playboy Knockoff, and some of her amazing art, you know, I have some of it. I use it within my work. It's absolutely outstanding. It's female positive, it's body positive, and it's just great to see such talent coming up through the ranks now. So welcome, Melissa, to the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hello.
So tell us, I mean, your art, I mean, I know you've had some issues with the way it's been received in some places, but tell us where all this kind of started out in terms of where the initial inspiration for your art came from.
Well, it started just naturally, just like doing art in high school. I would like doodle all the time when I was in class. So I started like getting on my feet with art. And then about when I was living in Texas by myself at like 19, I like met this person and like he did a lot of cool art. So I was like, oh my gosh, like I haven't done art in so long, because I had this like previous relationship that I focused on more than my outlets.
Mm-hmm.
And that I was a mistake. And anyways, so in Austin I started experimenting more with like the female nude body and like drawing my own perception of like what I was what like I was like more wishing I looked like in a way.
Okay.
So, and because back then I wasn't like fully comfortable in my body and everything, being 19. And then I moved back to California, and then I really just like kind of went through a lot of changes. I lost a lot of like friends, went through a lot of jobs, and then all between that I was channeling all of like my inner frustrations about myself and like how I looked and just like life into art. And then I started just having like female nudity be kind of the carrier for all of my emotions.
Okay. So I think that's such a positive way of kind of dealing with that. Where did a lot of that negativity and kind of emotion do you feel came for you in the first place? Because you're part of what I would call the younger generation.
Yeah.
Even though you're obviously a young adult woman, so we're not taking anything away from that. But I mean, in terms of, I know people of my generation often believe that things like sex education and body positivity have changed in a positive way, since we were all at school. But I'm not convinced that's the case. So how did you find all of that?
Well, I would say my frustration started just of like lack of education about like you kind of grow up and like what people call like the Disney syndrome, where you're just like, oh my God, I'm gonna like have this amazing first time, and like it's my like virginity, and like so much pressure, which is BS, but to even put on someone at such a young age, when like that's when everyone's losing that, and they like most people don't even experiment with their own bodies, so they can't even like understand how to feel pleasure through someone, because they don't even know how to feel it through themselves. So I'd say like kind of just from like being more frustrated about like why I keep having sex, but like how come like I don't feel good during it, or like how come like I don't feel like I'm sexy during it, and all this stuff, when like a ton of kids watch porn, and like you see like which is all a facade, and it's just like I don't feel that sexy how she's looking through like intercourse and everything. So I feel like that kind of is where like it started. And then just like really bad relationships kind of like helped fuel it, where people were like policing me, or just like, oh, don't wear that outside because that's really embarrassing. Like I don't want to be like embarrassed because I'm expressing my body the way I want to. And Anyways, sorry.
No, well, I think that's
um
such a powerful message, Melissa, because
yeah.
this is one of the things in the work that I do. We're trying to get away from, in terms of sexual freedom and sensuality, is one of the things that I'm seeing, and I have are a lot of clients that are your age that have
Hmm.
their reference point. Like you say, a lot of kids watch porn, and that's where they're getting a lot of their information from. So when I meet
Yeah.
somebody like you that's kind of had that realization and then has done something so amazing with it in terms of your artwork, where I
Mhm.
think that the name, your brand name, Playboy Knockoff, is just brilliant for that. But show us some of your art and talk us through kind of where some of these things came from, because it's powerful stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And on that note, previously, I just want to add into like I became more comfortable with my body by drawing just like female oriented bodies. Sometimes I won't even add like full genitalia, and like it's kind of just whatever I feel like is going on. But I realized one day I was like, oh my God, like I was like taking like a nude in the mirror or something for like my own pleasure, because I just do that all the time. But I was like, I look like the people I draw, and if I can accept like everything that I draw, how come I can't accept myself? And
Absolutely.
then that was kind of just like the aha moment, and that's what I just wanted to add in.
Yeah,
I kind of paused
that's the
earlier,
perfect
but
aha moment, isn't it? When
yeah,
and to have that, I mean, I believe me, Melissa, I've got women coming in their 50s that still haven't had that aha moment. They're still
yeah,
comparing themselves negatively to what they think it should be and how they should look, rather than just seeing how absolutely amazing the female body is in every
yeah,
possible form, and so yeah, it's so
definitely.
cool. And then this has led you on to to produce some really amazing art. And I guess it's an odd process when you have that aha moment and you get that
Mhm.
acceptance, and then when you take that art to other places, for some people it causes them to have that aha moment, but for others,
Yeah.
total opposite reaction. Tell us about some of those experiences.
So I just recently had an art show in San Luis Obispo, California, which is definitely a little town that likes to say they're very forward thinking, but when it comes down to it, it's really not. And they're trying though. They're doing little good things here and there. But so I had some pieces up that people were mainly older white men, which I think is the funniest part, like in their like 60s, that we got some bad Yelp reviews, and like I guess so many people called and complained to the little like coffee shop that I work in that hosted me, that we had to like take down like this huge painting of like the creation of Adam, but I did it with like the creation of Eve. And so it's this like female just like spreading like spread eagle, and then the hand like not even touching, just like going into like the vulva. And it's just, so that one got taken down. And then I had this Mother Mary one where like one of her breasts were exposed, even though it's a very just like sensual painting. That one wasn't even supposed to like slam anything, and that one got taken down.
Yeah.
And then I have these two pieces right here, I'll show you, that also
Yeah.
had to get taken down. Oh, so we
Okay.
have thing one.
Okay. So
Apparently this is
obviously a
just a little too
highly
much.
offensive piece of artwork. And just if you just
Yeah.
hold that back up again, actually,
Okay.
thing one and thing two feature. I actually use prints. I have permission. I'm so to use these some of Melissa's artwork, original artwork in the work that I do, because this
Right.
actually I think is so representative of how people actually view their genitals, isn't it? This thing one, thing two,
Yeah.
and oh, it's down there, and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's very powerful art. So they didn't like those two even. That was
They
acceptable.
were too graphic apparently, but it was the owners of the company were like awesome about it. I was kind of nervous going into it because we went into it like, let's ask for forgiveness, not permission type of thing. So like, yeah, like our new employee, because I just started there too. So I was like,
Yeah.
our new employee is like gonna do art after dark. And I remember like standing on the street corner and then seeing my boss like the owner like right in front of me, and she didn't know I was behind her. And I like was watching her walk in, and I was like, oh my God, this could either go so bad or like so good, because right when you walk in is like that huge one of like the creation of Eve, and it's like as big as me. And so she instantly like looked around, and I was like sweating, and she was like, oh my God, I love it, and was like totally excited about everything. So they kept him up for a really long time, actually, until someone complained so hard that they called like the city council of San Luis and was like, you need to ride your bike. Or like this guy like rode his bike by, who like worked for them, and looked at it, was like, that's totally fine, and then like rode away. But someone like called that. it was a hot mess. But yeah, my bosses were really supportive of it, which I was thankful for. But this one I sold out of this print at my show.
We've just got a square there. Oh, don't open the door.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about that one. So what inspired that?
So this is actually a real photo that I took. So I had just gotten my iPad, and I think like foot fetishes are great. I personally don't have one, but I have really nice feet, and I'm just like, I don't know, let's just do this. Maybe some of my followers have a foot fetish, and this one's for them. But yeah, I just think it's really funny because I am thankfully in a really great relationship right now, and we're able to still like joke around with each other and just like do really like funny things. So I like that one because it's like what goes on behind closed doors, even though it's just like whatever.
Yeah.
But this one, go. So next to this one was actually, sorry, I had a hair in my mouth also, but this one was actually, this is a print of a painting that I have. It's like about 3 feet long and like 4 feet wide. So it's pretty big. And this one I did create around Easter Sunday time. And this, I'm not very familiar with like correct terms for the Bible. So I would say this verse or passage, one or two. This is the one that is like, thou shalt not judge, or thou will be judged, because like for how much you judge, you will get judged back, kind of thing. So I really like this one because growing up, a lot of my family was very religious. And like not personal family, but like extended family, and just like one of my best friends would like trick me into going to church with her and all this other stuff. So that was kind of just, and they like never really fully accepted me the way I wished they were. Not so much my family is like totally fine, but just more like personal people I went to high school with who were super big into like the church scene were like really judgmental towards me throughout a lot of life. So that one's just my sexuality coming out, along with kind of like a little stab at those people. And just being like, you judged me, and now it's coming back to you. So
yeah, no, absolutely. And I think absolutely, I think what I love about the way your art kind of comes out is that it comes from it's a very personal place, isn't it? Oh, hang on.
Oh,
it's all right. Up here. There we go. Excellent. So
I can't. Oh, there you go.
It's all right. All right. So what I was saying was, what I love about your art is a lot of it comes from a very personal place where, it comes from experience. And I think it's very easy for people to look at a 23-year-old woman and go, well, what kind of experience, can you have? But, one of the things that I know we talked about was when we're at school and, they take the boys off to one place and the girls off to another, and boys are taught about orgasms and wet dreams and pleasure and, condoms sometimes.
Yeah.
And then
hopefully.
And then on the other side, girls are taught about childbirth, pain, periods, sanitary protection, and contraception. But the way that it's kind of even now kind of explained to the two, you know, to boys and to girls, is very, very different. And I think at that point we don't realize we're kind of seeding, or, you know, or I know in a lot of states in the US where they just don't teach anything at all, which is
so scary.
which is quite scary. And,
Yeah,
it obviously doesn't solve the teenage pregnancy rate and all that kind of stuff. But what that says, isn't it? That starts that message that for boys, it tells them that it can be pleasurable, it can be orgasmic, and they might even do that in their sleep, and that's fine. And then
it's just that easy.
Yeah, I know for girls, we're not. I certainly wasn't. And I know when we spoke, you weren't really. The pleasure of sensuality, of female orgasm, of all of that kind of stuff, it's still taught very mechanically. This bit goes there. And also the kind of, and contraception is, you should be worried about getting pregnant, and you know, it's still very fear-based for girls, and much, I think, for boys. Is that, you know, is that, so when I hear you say, you know, you kind of come through that, you know, you've learned that that's not the case, then I think that's a really wonderful thing. And I think that's a really positive message that you're giving out, not only to your own generation, but to a lot of us older ones that are still struggling with them. You know, a lot of people still struggle with being feminine, being sexy. And it's about how you feel, isn't it? It's not necessarily about how you look.
Yeah, definitely. And on another note of like how they separate the boys and the girls, I think it's also like, especially for kids who like don't necessarily like feel like they belong like as a male or female, and they get like purposely set into that when they're like, I don't feel that way, that can do so much damage too at like such a young age. And yeah, it's like, even to this day, no boy has ever been like, this is what I learned in like sex education when we got separated. Like, no one talks about it. So I'm like, did they really even teach you anything? And they didn't even really, they barely covered contraception in our class. They were just kind of like abstinence, which is like, most people are not going to do that. And it's just a really dangerous game that like I feel like the school board and like school education system just plays like into. They don't realize that that's such a crucial age, and like how I've even like having a wrong teacher for it can just immediately inflict so much embarrassment on a kid if like the teacher acts wrong, because they're not having these professional sex educators come in. They're literally just having like it was our science teacher, and thankfully she was pregnant at the time, so she was like, okay, this is what's really happening, so like I can literally teach you right away, like here's what it looks like. But even then, they don't even tell you what, like they show you where like your clitoris is, but they don't tell you what it does. And then they like literally show you like, they don't even tell you about a G spot. They don't tell you about like how if some wrong positions can hit your cervix, and that will like make you feel like you're gonna throw up and you need to go to the hospital. Like there's just so many things that, this is like another funny one, they don't tell you about queefing. And I remember like my first experience, I don't care if we're talking about this, but like my first experience, I was so ashamed. I like instantly like jumped off, and I like didn't even look at the person for like 35 minutes because I was like so ashamed of it. And it was just like, if I could have prevented like things like that. And I thought about that for like a year after that, where I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. So let's just clear up something, because I know what queefing is. We have a different name for it here in the UK, which we're really
excited.
The Americans, which is a fanny fart. But of course, fanny in the UK is vagina. So just to really, but basically it's basically when somebody's had sex or having sex or just finished having sex, and you get that kind of bit of air that's trapped inside, and it just comes out again, and it basically just sounds like a fart.
It's so, it's just crazy. Like, even though I get that it's not, people probably don't look at that as appropriate to learn through sex education, but like I think sex education needs to be steered in like what can prevent people from shame, and that shame creates impact to like later things and like builds up awful things later in life that they're either like scared to talk about, or just like even like vagina schmegma. No one talks about that. That needs to be talked about. I remember for like years I was like, I don't even know what to call this that I like see through like different, because it's like part of your cycle. It gets like, I feel like it's more pronounced or profound or whatever. But and so it's just like literally at like 21 I finally saw some like sex educator be like, hey, I have like every woman has, or every like vagina owner has like vaginal schmegma and no one talks about it. And then I was just like, am I just constantly having an yeast infection, or like I don't even know, which I also had to find out. Yeast infections, UTIs, they don't tell you to like pee after sex. They don't tell you like how to take care of your vagina. Don't use soap, don't use vaginal washes. 101. I'm kind of going on a rant now, but it's just there's so many things that like need to be changed that could prevent shame in people.
Well, I think this is it. Anything sexual often does, cause shame, doesn't it? Shame and guilt. But it's this, by having these conversations, just by hearing, there'll be somebody that's heard that and gone, oh, just like you were before, and you kind of go, oh, and I'm all for having, when we talk about professional sex education. I think a lot of people think that's about teaching people how to have sex. It's not. It's about helping people to understand the various elements and flavors of sex and what they could be.
Yeah.
And also to understand their own bodies, and especially women, I mean, I'll show you this, most women don't know what.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
I know you do, but isn't it so cool? But I often show this to women, and then the first question they ask me is, well, have you shown it to the men because they need to know where it is? And I'm like, no, I do show it to the men, but actually us ladies need to know where it is and what it looks like.
Yeah.
We don't know that part of our anatomy, and how the heck ask anybody else to. So what do you hope your art will do? Because it is inspiring, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm glad it's inspiring. Right now my art is kind of just, it's slowing down a little bit, but I like art always just goes like that. Right now I'm working towards going back to school and hopefully becoming, or not even hopefully, I want to become a sex educator. So that's a really new thing going on in my life, and art has just kind of given me the pathway of like solidifying that is like what I am really passionate about and what I want to do, because every piece is like usually just about myself, or like in a way that's just expressing something where it's like, oh my god, like even though I'm not very, that's one thing I'm not very open about, is like what my art is specifically saying. So that's kind of why I think I took on that outlet, because people can assume whatever they want, but no one's ever gonna like know exactly what I'm expressing. But yeah, so I'm hopefully going to be donating an auction piece for Planned Parenthood's Roe versus Wade anniversary soon. And just like little shows here and there. It's always going to be an outlet for me, but I think like being a sex educator is definitely like a top priority right now.
I think you're amazing at it as well. In terms of, people want to view your full portfolio of art if they want to purchase prints or originals or anything like that from you. Where will people go?
Oh wait, you cut out on that one. Sorry.
I said in terms I'll ask the whole question again, and then so if people want to view the whole portfolio of your art, or if they want to purchase prints or originals, where do they go and how do they get in contact with you?
So my Instagram handle is Playboy Knockoff, one word. That is where I pretty much do all my business, because I can like get my full price. I don't have to pay like a website commission fee, or like through Etsy where they take 10% and stuff like that. So in my bio, I have my email, and then, or you can just direct message me. I'm really good about checking messages, especially because I have the notifications on now. I used to not, but I found out how to turn them on.
Okay.
Still a little slow with social media, but yeah, I've been doing a lot more digital art than I ever have. So that's where you can, and pretty much anything digital that I put on my Instagram can be turned into a print. But I'm definitely still going with the art. That's not a slowdown.
No,
It
no.
is slowing down, but it's not like ever gonna stop.
Well, I will keep buying bits from you and pieces from you and using it within my work, because I think the messages are so powerful. The stuff that you did through Kinktober, Inktober, with all the kind of, I thought just the idea of the magicalness of the witch theme, and then all the other themes that were incorporated within that was just so generally body positive, sex positive, kink positive, everything positive, really.
Yeah.
I'll be talking to you about that for a series of MP3s that we're looking at next year, which will be great to get involved with. But
Cool.
yeah, so if you wanted to say something about being a 23-year-old woman in this world, and you wanted to send a message out to other or even younger girls that are kind of coming up now, are kind of just at that age that you were when you had all that negativity, what would you say to them?
I would say number one, explore your own body, like learn how you work. I even to this day, like, will just like new things will pop up, and I get embarrassed to explore myself alone, which I think is awful. I'm like, that's just like society outside things that I've like absorbed like earlier in life that, oh, I got a hair in my mouth. Oh, sorry. That has like kind of put a damper on that, but I'm like definitely learning to like really be okay with myself and exploring new things. So that I would say definitely work towards that, and don't be afraid to talk about anything. Like, definitely there's certain people who if you talk to them about, they might make you feel judged, so kind of feel out the waters. But the more open you are about your experiences, you'll find out that everyone's having the same experience, and that growing together is going to be like just communicating through people and like learning together, not necessarily physically but like verbally, or just hearing other people's stories can make you look at your shameful story and then seeing how they own it, and they're just like, yeah, that didn't even affect me, and you're like, what? And then you're like, wait, I want to like embody that confidence about that scenario and things like that. So that's just an example, but
No, I agree. I think
yeah.
it's about us ladies, whatever age we are, isn't it? Being able to say, I'm female. I can be sexual if I choose to be, and that's okay. And how I
Yeah.
choose to express that is entirely my choice, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to judge anybody else because it might be different, and vice versa. And I think that's that in essence is kind of where we're at, isn't it? And hopefully
Yeah.
how we will progress forwards. So thank you so much, Melissa, for coming on and talking to us.
Yes.
I know I'm very excited to have you on. And we'll put up some of the pictures of the art that you've shown us as we put this up today, so people can have a look and really get, I really hope that people will look at it and really think about, the power behind your pieces like Thing 1 and Thing 2, and, lots of the other things that you've done. And also, and think about, why would it be that, someone's Instagram account can be shut down? I know yours was shut down at one point.
Yeah. It's my second one.
And and all of those things, there's not one of there's nothing on there that's pornographic or offensive, or and there's things that get filtered through. I find it really amazing that you'll find, I know on Facebook, for example, you'll see sex being used blatantly to sell something. You've got women putting lipstick on, and the masses of cleavage showing, and that's perfectly okay. But then a picture there is a graphic, not as in it's a picture graphic, not a graphic image of, but a picture graphic of something like the vagina that's making a point that, you know, women are still feeling very repressed, is banned. And nipples, for example, female nipples are about
Yeah.
breastfeeding. You know, we've got to ask ourselves, what is the world coming to? So, you know, I think the work that you do is extraordinarily valid. And thank you so much for sharing us with it today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. Hopefully it went okay.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So if you have really enjoyed this, please go and check out Melissa's work. Please support her. It's Playboy Knockoff on Instagram. And there's some really amazing, interesting, truly unique and original works of art on there. So please go and check that out. And also don't forget to check out some of the other episodes of Trancing in the Sheets here on the Hypnosis 24/7 Live Network. Also remembering that from the 13th of January, if you're already watching this after, you can also find us on Apple TV, Roku and Amazon Fire, along with lots of other hosts, all of whom have got great guests, and we are covering a wide range of topics in and around the hypnosis field and outside too. So join us again next time on Trancing in the Sheets, and I'll look forward to seeing you then. Thanks for watching.